Okay, so we're going to begin straight away. We don't need any specific introduction. We know how to adjust the motivation and all that. So everybody has the text and we're going to start straight away. The actual title of this text, I know in English it's translated as Word of Advice for a Lay Practitioner. The actual Tibetan title is Verses Urging or Motivating Us to extract the essence of this leisured human life. So first of all, let's look at the meaning of what it means to have a leisured life. We understand the meaning of leisure as having a sort of freedom, not being oppressed, not having to, not being under duress. So having that leisure. So when you hear this term here, the leisured human life, definitely it refers to the precious human rebirth that is characterized by the full set of 18 qualities, which is the 8 types of leisures and the 10 types of endowments. So the next part of the title says extracting the essence. All right, so here the essence can be understood, of course, in different ways, but since within the context of Buddhist Dharma, we understand that to extract the essence of your life means to use your life in a meaningful way. Don't waste it in meaningless things. So the essence means do something meaningful with your life. Okay, so we are talking about practicing Dharma here or following religion, and you know that there are very different religious systems. We have the Buddhist Dharma and we have non-Buddhist Dharma. So within the Buddhist Dharma, what we need to consider, we are meditating beings. Being means that you are going somewhere, you are heading somewhere. So whatever is your age, whether you're 20, 30 years old, who are older than those who are reaching 60, 70, we're going somewhere, we're heading somewhere. So where are we going? We're actually going into the 3 lower types of rebirths. Rebirth as a hell being, rebirth as a hungry ghost, and rebirth as an animal. Of course, there are other destinations, better types of rebirth that one could approach. But due to the amount of afflictions and negativity that we have accumulated, it is certain which way we are heading. We're not heading upwards, we are heading downwards. Okay, so heading downwards, first of all, the first possibility is to be reborn in the hells. There are hot hells and cold hells. Okay, for the hot hells, okay, what is the experience there? Sometimes we see it like in different movies, or we see it in the news when there is some excessive big fires happening, like these catastrophic fires. So imagine that you are in the midst of those fires. So you have to contemplate and say, if I were to be in the midst of those fires, would I be able to tolerate this? Would my body be able to survive this? So just think, if I were there, could I survive this? Could I endure this? And definitely a sense of fear should arise in the mind, because we would not be able to withstand these types of fires. If you want to consider the possibility of ending in the cold hells, what is the experience in the cold hells? The experience in the cold hells is extremely cold, icy conditions. So imagine you are there, you don't have any clothes, you are naked in this frozen environment, and you have a type of body that is very susceptible, naked, exposed. There is an icy wind that is blowing. So just consider, would I be able to survive? Is there any way like I can crunch up my body so that I'm less exposed to these freezing conditions? But if you think about it, you would say, I would probably not survive, right? So again, always ask the question, would I survive this? Would I be able to endure this? Actually, we would not be able to survive it. So this was about the hells. The other possibility is to be reborn as a hungry ghost. Okay, we don't have direct experience of hungry ghosts, but we know that the main type of suffering is this complete deprivation of any food or drink. And you have a body that actually is constantly hungry, or, is craving for food. Sometimes we see it in a human condition. So what would be the suffering there? Would I be able to endure this? Again, the answer has to be no. And finally, if we look at rebirth as the animals, we have the experience, the direct experience of the animals. You see how animals are treated, mistreated, exploited, how they go through their own suffering. So if I were to be reborn as an animal, would I be able to endure that type of existence? All right. So we have to think that in any of these options, they're all options of a lower rebirth, it would be extremely hard. We would not be able to tolerate this suffering. All right. So the reason why we consider all this is because we have to understand that, some meaningful conclusion has to come out of this contemplation. And that is that today we have to start looking for who has the power to protect us. These things are happening. This is our destination. So who has the power to protect us? Our guru and the three jewels have the power to protect us. So when we present the three jewels, we talk about the Buddha jewel, the Dharma jewel, the Sangha jewel. Often there is the thought that, anybody who is ordained is the Sangha jewel and will be able to protect us. But this is not accurate. When we talk about the Sangha jewel, we're talking about Arya beings who are ordained, Arya beings who have direct realization of emptiness, isn't it? Who have manifested the truth of cessation, the truth of the path in their mind stream. So be clear about this. So how does each one of those objects of refuge protect us? The Buddha jewel is our teacher, so he will give us the teachings. As we say, the Dharma jewel is the actual thing that has the power to protect us, is the truth of cessation and the truth of the path. So to reach that cessation, that means cessation of all your negativities, all your obscurations, cessation of heading towards suffering. So to reach that cessation, you need to rely or to cultivate the path. So true path and true cessation. This is a true refuge. And then we have the Sangha jewel. The Sangha jewel is our Dharma friends, our Dharma companions. They will support us. They will help us. They will give the explanation. So usually we hear it from a member of the Sangha that say, look, if you engage only in negativity, the results of this will be unfortunate rebirths. If you practice virtue, there will be some much better results. So they're there to help us, to guide us, to protect us. Okay, but very important, we consider that we are heading towards the three lower rebirths, the suffering that comes with being reborn as a hell being, as a hungry ghost, as an animal. This is a very terrifying experience that we would not be able to survive, to tolerate, and so forth. So we need protection. And who has the power to protect us is the three jewels. And from the three jewels is the actual Dharma jewel. That is the real protection for us. Truth of path, truth of cessation. So we have talked about the hells, about the hot hells and the cold hells. We can elaborate on the suffering of the hungry ghosts. There is a description of the experience they have. The hungry ghosts have a type of body that actually is suffering even when they are in the moonlight. Usually the moonlight is considered to be cooling, but for them is an experience where the rays of the moonlight are burning their body when it comes in contact with them. When they go into the sunlight, which usually for us is a warm experience. For them, it is a freezing experience. So they have almost the opposite of what we do. When they look at, there could be trees that are laden with fruit, but when they look at those trees, they see them as barren and empty. There's nothing there for them, no vegetation, nothing eatable. They are also very thirsty, so looking for water, even if there is a great lake in front of them, they just cannot see the water. Even if they see the place as being completely dried up. So they are constantly tormented by the lack of food and the thirst that comes with that. And to make things more difficult, they have bellies that are extremely large. So they are constantly hungry, they are tormented by this hunger, and they have those bellies that are so big. And as they wander around in what seems to them to be a completely barren, empty landscape, they are burnt by the moonlight and they are freezing under the rays of the sun. So just think, if I were to be born there, would I be able to endure this? How could I tolerate this? I wouldn't be able to do this. For the animals, we have direct experience. We can see with our own eyes the type of suffering that they experience. So again, we have to think, as a hell being, as a hungry ghost, as an animal, I just could not bear this. And therefore, we're seeking refuge. We identify the objects of refuge as the three jewels, and we say they have the power to protect us. It's not enough to be on this, general intellectual level. You have to have a sense of very strong reliance, meaning you are 100% convinced and say, you alone have the power to protect me. No one else. You have all the power to protect me from this. So when we talk about trust and reliance, it has to be 100%. So we have talked about the fear that makes us look for protection, to look for refuge at the objects of refuge. And we say that we must have this very strong faith, conviction in their power. We must have this very strong reliance. So the example that we give here is a person who is going to be executed. So let's say the police has apprehended, or even the army has apprehended this person, and they are leading them towards his or her execution. So imagine what is going on in the mind of that person. With every step they take, they're thinking, I'm getting close to being executed. And when we arrive in this place, one of these, policemen will pull out his gun and will fire at me. This is like every step I'm getting closer. So imagine the panic in this situation. Other people in the crowd do not have this concern, but this person is at the edge. So imagine that as they are parading him towards the place of execution, he notices amongst the crowd that there is some official, an official with great power, someone who has the power to give amnesty. So what would the person do? They would try to run and fall at the feet and grasp that person and say, please help me. You're the only one who can help me here. You're the only one who can intervene. Actually, you have the power to say, stop this execution. So imagine the hope and the reliance, like, you are my only hope, please help me here. So we're talking about this intensity, this type of reliance when we go for refuge. So as we say, this intense and sincere mind of complete reliance is what actually makes us become Buddhists. If you do not have that mind of reliance, then you're not a Buddhist. We might say, I'm a Buddhist, but if you actually check the quality of your reliance, unless it is at this level, actually you're not a Buddhist. So whether or not we become Buddhist or we are Buddhist depends on whether we have this level of faith and reliance. Being a Buddhist is not determined from whether your father or your mother was a Buddhist. It's not determined from whether you attend some teachings or you visit a Dharma center. So it only comes if you have that absolute mind of reliance, thinking the three jewels 100% have the power and are the only ones that can protect me from the suffering of the three lower migrations. And therefore, understanding this, Rinpoche is saying, I urge you all to make every effort to generate that mind. You have to get your mind to that particular level. So think about it again and again and try to cultivate this, because this is what will make you a Buddhist. So we have explained what delineates between being a Buddhist or not being a Buddhist, what is necessary in order for us to become Buddhist. Okay, so if we are Buddhist, then we're looking at the Buddhist Dharma. The Buddhist Dharma is classified into Hinayana and Mahayana. So now the question is, what is required for us to practice the Mahayana? All right, so what needs to be done, the attitude that needs to be present is the attitude that says, I'm not concerned with my own well-being, I'm more concerned about the well-being of other sentient beings. So by remembering the kindness of sentient beings, we generate the thought that says, I want to become a Buddha in order to benefit sentient beings. And the way that we reach to that level of aspiration and thought is by recalling their kindness. So, as we say, that the method of reaching that particular aspiration is to remember the kindness of all sentient beings. So first of all, we consider that they have been very kind to us when they acted as a mother to us. So to do this, we have to reflect on the kindness of the mother of this life. So we begin considering, all the acts of kindness that our mother has engaged. So from the very beginning, when we were conceived, from the moment she realized that she was carrying a life in her, all these 9 months of pregnancy, while she was expecting us, she took every measure, every precaution to make sure that we were comfortable. And then after we were actually born and came into this world, with with every possible means, she tried to keep us comfortable and well and healthy. So she has been kind to us, like from the beginning of our conception all the way through our lives. So she's raised us with great kindness. Rinpoche was saying that at least in our tradition, it is very rare to hear people say, oh, my mother was not kind, my mother was horrible, she didn't take care of me. Usually we hear of people saying, when you stop and think about it, that my mother raised me with great kindness. Okay, so having established that the mother of this life has raised you with great kindness, then you start considering, I actually had countless rebirths before this life. And this is also true for every other sentient beings. They also had countless rebirths. And therefore, it stands to reason to say that they have all taken turns in one life or another to act as a mother to me. Even people that we consider to be, horrible, for example, Mao Zedong, right? He has taken terms in being a mother to us. He has raised us with kindness when he had the role of a mother, right? So even if people, certain personalities that we consider to be extremely negative people, when they were a mother to their children, they were kind and they raised those children with kindness. Okay. So we say, all sentient beings have been extremely kind to me, only kind to me. And they're in a situation where they're all wishing to have happiness. Nobody wishes to have suffering, but they seem to be totally confused in terms of how to establish this happiness, how to avoid this suffering. So from my side, I will make them happy. From my side, I will remove their suffering. Okay, so as we say, we consider the great kindness of all sentient beings when they acted as a mother to us, but also they have been very kind to us at times where they were not a mother to us. So to give you an example, here we are in this center. We are in a building. This room is very comfortable. We have our seats. We have the AC on. Everything is very comfortable. But if you consider the comfortable house or the comfortable living conditions that I enjoy, each one of them is a service that is provided by others. And that goes beyond just my accommodation. Everything like my food, my drink, my clothes, everything that I consume, everything that I need is provided by others. So in the sense that you could have a beggar who goes out begging on the street, what does the beggar do? The beggar receives food or money or whatever from others. So we are like this. We are on the receiving end. Everything is provided by others. And when we look at the kindness of other sentient beings, then we ask the question, and what is it that they desire? What is it that they want? They all want to have happiness, but unfortunately, they do not know the right causes for happiness. They all want to avoid suffering. Unfortunately, they are confused as to how to avoid suffering. So then you come to the point of saying, today I make this pledge. I want to become that I will be the one who will free them from suffering. I will be the one that will bring about their happiness. But then, of course, there comes the question, do you have the capacity to do any of those things? And the answer is no. So as we say, we have these great aspirations and we say, I will free everyone from their suffering. I will bring about their happiness. And then, of course, you realize that you don't have the capacity to do that. We're ordinary beings. We don't have these sort of powers. So who has the power to do this? Only a Buddha has the power to bring this about. And how does the Buddha has this power? When you obtain the state of Buddhahood, then you have full capacity of body. The full power of body means you can assume any aspect that is suitable in the situation. In terms of your speech, it means you know the language and the dialect of every sentient being. And that also includes all the languages of the animals, for example, right? So you can communicate with the birds, you can speak ant language or, insect language and so on and so forth. And you will never have to rely on a translator. You can directly communicate with them. In terms of the capacity of the mind, it means you know exactly the predisposition and the capability of other sentient beings. You can read their mind like an open book. There's nothing hidden to you. And what does that indicate? So, for example, someone who has reached the state of Buddhahood, if they want to teach, let's say, the birds, they will assume the aspect of the bird because they have the capacity of the body to appear as a bird. They will speak in the bird language because they have the capacity of the speech, and they will know exactly what is appropriate to teach according to the capability of the audience, which is the birds. Or if it is the ants, if it is another insect and so forth, they can do that. Okay, so understanding that this is the full power, the full capacity of the Buddha, then you focus, like your aspiration becomes very clear, and you say, today, very quickly, I understand, I want to reach the state of Buddhahood in order to have the power to benefit all sentient beings. Once you generate that mind, which is the mind of bodhicitta, then you become a Mahayana practitioner. So this is what we're talking about. When does it become Mahayana? It becomes when you generate that mind. Okay, so as we say, for the sake of sentient beings, we aspire to reach the full power of the Buddha to become enlightened. Of course, the doubt might arise, like, does such a thing exist? Does the Buddha exist? So luckily, all of us, we are quite familiar with the life story of the historical Buddha, and we know all the where and how he was born, how he carried out enlightened activities in India, and so forth. As we say, it is very important to come to the point of generating that aspiration where you say, I will become a Buddha in order to benefit all sentient beings. And in order to become a Buddha, I will engage in different practices. So with that attitude, any practice that you do, you might recite Om Mani Padme Hum, you might do some prostrations, any other virtuous activity that you do actually becomes a Mahayana practice, and you become a Mahayana practitioner. Otherwise, it's just a lip service, Mahayana this, Mahayana that, right? Without the attitude, is mere words. Okay, so we start now with our text. The first line, which we have it translated in English is homage to my guru, the youthful Manjushri. In the Tibetan text, it appears in Sanskrit, so it reads Namo Guru Manchugoshaya. So Namo means I prostrate, Guru is my guru, and Manchugosha is the epithet for youthful Manjushri. Manchugosha Ya, the last syllable Ya, it means to the youthful Manjushri. Then it continues by saying, to those within her refuge, every happiness and joy. For those beset by suffering, every assistance, noble Tara, I bow before you. So the text begins with homage and prostration to Tara. It is a prostration to through the body, speech, and mind to the goddess of Tara, because she has made the promise that she will protect sentient beings from every type of suffering. So she will offer this protection by assuming the aspect of the female Buddha Tara. So we are prostrating, we're bowing to her. So as you can see here, it is Lama Tsongkhapa who is bowing before Tara. So it says, respectfully I prostrate to you, respectfully I bow to you. And what is the reason for that is because it says that whoever comes within her refuge, she will offer every type of assistance. So I am someone who is wishing to reach the state of Buddhahood to benefit all sentient beings. So for that reason, I'm bowing to you. We'll continue with the next verse. Those who drift on great seas of suffering, I will save. A powerful vow made good. To your lotus feet, compassionate goddess, I offer this bowed head. So with this one, we have the pledge of composition. So we understand the context in which some advice will be given. With verse number 3, the author is urging us to listen carefully because he has advice to give. So it says, you fine features, you have gained this opportune and leisured human form. If you follow me who speaks to help others, listen well, I have something to say. And the next verse, number 4, talks about death and impermanence. So it says, death will definitely come and will quickly come. Should you neglect to train your thoughts again and again on such certainties, you will grow no virtuous mind. And even if you do, it will be spent on enjoyment of the glories of this life. So with this verse, we are urged to consider death and impermanence. In this, we have to understand that death will certainly come. The actual time of death is uncertain, and at the time of death, only Dharma can be of benefit. So when we say that death will certainly come, we have to consider that the clock is ticking. Really, that time is passing. For example, if you look at the movement of the earth around the sun, or if you see a person who is circumambulating going around, and you look at the watch, and initially you think, I've got an hour, but the hour is broken down in minutes. And every minute that goes by, you get closer and closer to completing this circle. It is inevitable. You know, by the end of the hour, you would have completed this circle. So if you don't do something meaningful, you are, you know, the clock is ticking, the time is running out. So what is the shortcoming of not remembering death and impermanence? It says at the second part of the verse, it says, you will grow no virtuous mind, and even if you do, it will be spent on enjoyments of the glories of this life. If you don't think about your death, you will only be thinking about this life, so mundane activities. All right, so we have covered a fair amount of material. Do you have any questions? We can please be brave and ask.
Hi, Rinpoche. Hi, Rinpoche. I would like to ask. Just now you mentioned that as born as a human, it's most likely that most of us are going to be born in the lower three realms. So for a person to just be a normal good human, they don't kill anybody. They are just regular people with a certain amount of faith in the three jewels. Is that enough, or is that still not enough, and most of us are still going to likely be born in the lower three realms? Thank you.
Okay, you're still young, you haven't killed anyone so far. Yeah, but could you actually guarantee and sign us a paper to say, in my previous life, I never killed somebody else, or I never did something, you know, terribly negative? Can you guarantee that? Tell us. We want to hear. All right. So if you cannot guarantee that you have not killed someone in your previous life, it means actually you have killed someone in your previous life. Yeah. So due to this heavy negativity in your previous life, which you carry with you, once you pass away, where will you end up? Lower migrations. Okay. Next question.
Thank you, Rinpoche, for your kind teaching. Just now, when you mentioned about the hungry ghosts, it seems like they suffer from extreme delusion. So it seems almost hopeless, isn't it? That if we get to that stage. So how that for people, for beings like hungry ghosts to be saved?
How can we save hungry ghosts?
Because the delusion is so extreme if you get to that stage, right? So we're going down, right?
Yeah. So how can
Then
we
how- yeah.
save them, or how can they?
Or how can they be saved?
How can they be saved? Okay, so once you are born as a hungry ghost, you're so much tormented by this hunger and thirst, you cannot think about Dharma. You will not practice Dharma. This is the thing about these lower migrations. As a hell being, a hungry ghost, an animal, they are called a place of no freedom, means you don't have the leisure to practice Dharma. Okay, no, it's there is possibility for various rebirths.
Can I ask, while we try to develop bodhicitta, like you say, consider them as all sentient beings as our mothers at least once in a lifetime, but sometimes, people that you meet, where they're so afflicted and actually do a lot of harm, how can you still maintain that attitude of having bodhicitta? Is very difficult, I find, like your enemies, Sometimes you try to be kind to people, but, people just keep doing bad things, and there comes a time when it's sometimes really beyond tolerance. All I can do is just ignore these people, but you ask me to develop a bodhicitta is very difficult, I find, in your practice. So I want to get some advice from Rinpoche. How can we really still develop bodhicitta towards this kind of thing?
Okay, so in reality, you're saying I cannot see my enemy as being kind to me. I cannot develop bodhicitta by seeing that person as kind. Okay, so the starting point is to say the mother of this life has been kind to me, all right? And then you say, has this person who is now my enemy, has this person been a mother to me sometime in the past? Yes or no? All right, so if he had been a mother to you in the past, he is as kind as the mother in this life who has been kind to you. So I had countless past lives. This person and every other living being had countless past lives. And at some time in the past, when this person acted as my mother, at that time he resonates. He included kindness to me. She was kind to me. So remember that kindness and just say, okay, very kind to me. So use this to generate bodhicitta.
Rinpoche, thank you for the teaching. I have questions on verse number 4. Death will definitely come and will quickly come. In this sense of death is a very serious subject, which how do we able to help somebody who is about to pass on, who is not a practitioner, so to free them, to help them in their last moment of their life? How to help them?
How to help non-Buddhist practitioners.
Yes, that's right. Or they may have belief in Buddhism, but they are not practitioner.
And you want to help them at the end
Yes,
of their life.
yes. What's Rinpoche advice to us to able to help them?
And what help are you going to give them when they're at the deathbed? What are you going to do? They're dying. What are you going to do?
For example, chanting mantra, talking to them about Buddhism, or that.
Okay, so this person, remember we just have this conversation where everybody has been your mother. This person has been a mother, has been kind to you, and has arrived now at the deathbed, the last hours. What are you going to do? What can you do? No, Rinpoche says you ask the question, but I respond by asking you a question. So now you have to respond.
What I would do, I would chant whatever mantra I know, and especially the King of Prayer. Yeah.
Okay, a little bit of benefit, but is that enough? We need more?
Dear Rinpoche, I was thinking, right? Okay, I might not be the one who chant the mantras, but I think I will ask the person to go peacefully without any hatred, so that that person would continue to a better and higher rebirth, and like start the cycle again, but on a more positive note. Because when we leave, right, we will have a lot of packages, we will have a lot of worries, and sometimes anger and unwillingness to leave. So if a person leaves happily and peacefully, then I think that sets the cycle, a positive cycle, on and on again. And I think that would help them to move on to the next lives. So I think that's the way I was thinking. Thank you.
Okay, so Rinpoche was saying this, that, we've come to the end of someone's life, like they've got 10, 15 minutes, and you're trying to intervene there. It would be very good if you could actually find a way to stop the anger or the upset in the mind of that person, but can you actually do it? Can you be effective? Maybe there are some words that can be beneficial, like, relax now, we're at the end, please don't be angry, we're all the same, what happened, let go, that's what you can do.
Rinpoche, I would like to add on. Maybe we can offer our merits to the person who is going to pass on, and we visualize that we are suffering on their behalf, so that that will lessen their suffering.
Okay, so you talk about the practice of Tonglen. Tonglen can be of some benefit. You also mentioned the root of virtue, but the thing is, this is your root of virtue. You created this virtue. You have it. This person doesn't have your root of virtue. But what you can do that is very beneficial at this point is say, look at this person. This person is passing away. I don't have the power to do anything to help them right now. If I were to become a Buddha, I would be able to help this person. I would be able to lift this person up, guide them to a pure field, guide them to virtue, and so forth. May I become a Buddha to be able to help sentient beings. If you can use the situation to generate this aspiration, that is great benefit at the time of someone else's death. Okay, so we have said that it was going to be a 2-hour session, and so far we have covered about an hour and a half. She was saying today I have some extra recitation commitments to do. So is it okay if we stop a little bit earlier? So we stop this session